Hey everyone, today I am joined with one of our locals here, Joey, who finished runner-up this weekend at Emporium's Set Champs with a very spicy Ruby Steel deck. Joey, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Not too bad. Well, in addition to covering those great meta decks that we're all used to seeing on my channel, I also love shouting out those who perform well with decks that catch people off guard. What made you want to play Ruby Steel this past weekend?
So one of the main things is I play people who are playing red, blue, steel, and I was like, hey, what do you struggle against in those matchups? And blue steel is kind of like I struggle with resist characters. I struggle with like dealing a lot of damage, so locations works perfect there. Mm-hmm. And then red, blue players, they're like, hey, I really struggle with like aggro decks, right?
Yep.
So I'm like, all right, maybe I do like a location aggro type deck that kind of catches the top meta off guard. Even like green steel, they struggle against resist stuff.
Right, because you have some certain cards in there that counter hand cards.
Yeah.
So that's cool. How was your record like in matchups throughout the day?
So I played against in Swiss. I played against 2 red blues where I 2-0'd both of them, and then I 1-1'd against red purple, and then I 1-1'd against a amber steel, and then is that 4? Yep.
Yeah. And then top cut, how was that? How did that go?
So top cut, my first matchup was against red amber, so Mufasa deck, and I 2-0'd them, and then I ran into a red blue player, and I 2-1'd him, and then in the finals I lost to a lemon lime deck, so a yellow green deck, spicy with Kita and
That's
Under
awesome.
the Sea.
I'm happy to see like people trying out different decks too, because you don't normally see that deck, you don't normally see your deck, so that's really awesome. Speaking of which, I've known you since Set 1 started, and you've always liked to play these kind of meta decks, like off meta decks. You played like the Christmas colors, you tried out Mickey Trumpeteer for a little bit. At the Chicago Challenge, you ran Emerald Amethyst Jafar, right?
At the Chicago event, yes.
Yeah,
at Georgia, I ran Beast OTK.
Beast OTK, okay.
So green steel, but with Sheriff Nottingham and stuff.
Okay.
So definitely.
And now you ran Locations, Pirate, Spice stuff.
Yeah.
So, what makes you as a player want to play these anti-meta decks all the time?
So one big advantage I think of playing something, and I think what surprised a lot of people is when I brought this out, is when you play really good players, they're very familiar with what's in your deck. If you're playing a traditional top meta deck, so they're gonna be able to mulligan easier, and they'll be able to counter. Like they know their lines against that deck.
Right.
But when you're playing something that catches them off guard, they almost don't know what you're doing. So you kind of you can catch them slipping, and then I try to see like what decks are top metaing, and like I just kind of explained like how to counter those top decks.
Sure. Right. Yeah, it's good, especially when people are expecting certain decks, and then they sit in front, and you're like, okay, these 2 color combinations, that's kind of off color. And speaking of those 2, colors in particular, before we jump into your deck, these 2 color combinations are notoriously known for not having draw power. How did you solve the issue of card draw in your build, or did you kind of just ignore that and went with a totally different strategy?
So originally I was like, I'm going to build a deck to empty my hand as fast as possible, because Bucky discard was running like wild. And then I was like gassing out way too quick where I was running out of cards. And there was a couple cards where I'm like, all right, I probably need to add. So I'm on a couple whole new worlds, but other than that, I have almost no card draw. Like Robin Hood is technically card draw, but that's really bad card draw because people are going to banish it with actions and stuff. So there's cards in here where I kind of don't want a lot of cards in hand, and it kind of helps my deck out.
Okay. So we'll see that in a bit. Well, I'm excited to see it and your card choices for these colors. So let's go ahead and show it off.
All right, perfect.
Show off that Ursula first, real quick. Cool, awesome, and a playmat. All right, so the 1 cost card.
So true. This is actually another little bit of card draw, but not great. But we're on 4 Fortispheres. So Fortisphere is a great turn 1 alternative, especially sometimes if I'm going first because you're missing 1 less card and you need to kind of get up your ink a little bit. But the bodyguard that Fortisphere also offers is pretty good because of some other cards in here. Nice. But, great turn 1. You do need turn 1s in this deck because it's kind of more aggro. So my 1-drops you'll see here are Fortisphere and then 4 Robin Hoods.
Okay.
So usually 8 1-drops is what I'm running here. So you can only see a 1-drop in your hand. And Robin Hood's such a standard 1-drop because I'm playing the big Robin Hood, obviously, the Shift Robin Hood, because that card's very good.
Right.
But so that's why we're running these as our 1-drops. Our 2-drops will be we're going to run 4 Flynns. And Flynn, because I played, like you said, in the Chicago Challenge, like a Bucky Diablo type deck. And I noticed that if they didn't have exact removal, it would be really hard for them to deal with Flynn Rider. Because he's just going to be getting lore. And if you can't hit him with like Steel Song or cards, he's going to just generate you so much lore. So he's a really good 2-drop in certain matchups.
Also, a couple people in the area who are known, like Dewey and Brian, they do play red-blue. So it is also really good.
True. Red-blue, they're not going to get a character out unless they get the Queen of Hearts. They're not going to get a character out for kind of a while. So this could just generate you 6 free lore potentially by itself. And then the other 2-drop is Mr. Smee, such a staple card in the last couple sets. Or, last 2 sets. Mr. Smee is awesome in this deck because the 3/3 stat line is really good because it dodges your Babooms, your Let the Storm Rage On, all that kind of stuff. And then also it even dodges your Brawls in red decks. And could be their turn 3 if you're going something like this, Flynn. So you might want to go an alternative block because this aggro is pretty good. And like it usually, if they want to trade into it, it's probably going to get banished also if that early of a challenger. And still survive. And it generates you like early lore, which is really good. All right, next we got 3 Babooms, sorry. 3 Babooms, kind of like the Diablo Slayer. Also, slays Flynn Riders, the mirrored Flynn Rider. And just a lot of like aggro decks, we're seeing a little bit more aggro decks pop up. So it's just good to have like spot removal on their Flynn Riders if they're playing it, or like, Merfolk that you don't want to just generate 2 lore and then they bounce it back and you can't even get to it. So
makes sense.
Always good to have some Babooms, and it's not rippable from Ursula. So that helps that they don't get to steal it. We're on 3 Nottinghams right now, which is kind of interesting.
Foreshadowing something.
I don't know if I'm going to be on 3 Nottinghams, but Nottingham's actually good because I am running Jon Silver, the one that gets buffed for locations. You'll see in a little bit. But Nottingham's also good because turn 4 sometimes you could, if you're trying to get rid of your hand, you might want to drop 2 2-drops. And then if you have Jon Silver on turn 3, turn 4 you might be able to drop a Nottingham and a Smee maybe, and then that puts a lot of pressure on the opponent. And locations are good hedging against your red decks where they're playing Be Prepared, Medusas, Tremaines, like all that stuff doesn't really get hit by this. And it's like 1 lore. It's pretty good, like passively.
Times that people were ignoring Nottingham and it just got away with like so much lore.
And I wouldn't say so much, but it definitely will get you like 3 lore potentially because they're just going to ignore it. And if you have Jim Hawkins, you want a little more locations in hand because you want to be able to use Jim Hawkins' secondary effect to at least get something out for free. So Nottingham's not bad.
Almost serves as like a pride land for when Amber Steel runs it. It just puts so much pressure. They want to get rid of it too.
Next we're on 2 Benja. So Benja's here for your red-blue players who are going to be playing either the Popsicle or if you want to get rid of the Fishbone Quills. I hit a couple Fishbone Quills off my opponent, which if they're on the draw, you can take it out, and then that kind of like halts their snowball effect where they're ramping up really quick. And he's a 2-quester, so he falls into that good aggro format. Next we got some Sisus. This card is so good in most decks,
So good.
Almost all decks in red. So she, gets more attack the more cards your opponent has, and she comes out on turn 3, and your opponent's usually, if they're not playing this, they're drawing a lot of cards usually because card draw is good in card games. But Sisu is good for the Flynn Riders because you can go turn 2 Flynn, then turn 3 Sisu, and then she's going to be bigger than almost anything they can spawn. She'll probably be at least 5. And the 4 health stat line is so good. It dodges smash. It dodges pretty much everything in the format. 4 is like the staple right now. And they wanted, this card is almost like a Maui killer, because they want to trade in, like you want to trade in the Maui because Maui is a real problem on this deck, but there's a lot of ways to remove the Maui, which is good. But she quests for 2, phenomenal. She dodges Brawl until like the very end of the game. So she's definitely she dodges all the removal and gets you the attack power you need and everything. We're on 4 Jon Silvers right now.
We haven't seen this since the Pirate days.
He's questy. He's good against steel decks because, like I said, blue steel struggles with damaging locations because they are ramping up and then they're playing like Cogsworth turn 5, which is only a 2 attacker, and their biggest attacker usually Tinkerbell, which is not you know, great for taking out locations. Doesn't have rush, anything like that.
Okay.
But he also gets resist and the lore. So, you know, if you're turn 3ing this, and then, like I said, turn 4, you're doing a Nottingham and something else, he gets more, he gets the resist, it could sneak up on your opponent. And then, yeah.
What's the most lore you had during that weekend? Were you able to get like 3, 4 lore on the guy?
3. I wasn't able to get 4 because usually it's an RS Legacy on the board and then maybe a Nottingham.
Okay.
Before they actually start dealing, like, you know, because he's not the primary goal, but he's good also for the SME because he is a captain, which is an underrated interaction.
Yeah. Right.
Where, like, you know, you're going SME turn 2, turn 3, you can do this, and SME won't take the damage.
Sure. Yep.
Which comes up a lot with SME not taking any damage there.
Very strong to keep SME healthy.
We're on 2 Agrabah. We were on 3, and then we switched to Nottingham because I think, like I said, the 4, turn 4 is a little more because, you know, our 3 drops are pretty good in this deck. Our 3 drops are Sisu, Jon Silver, you know, Benja, Smash. So you're
pretty heavy on the 3.
Pretty heavy on the 3. So like I cut one down, but this is something I don't know if I've ever spawned it on turn 3 because Maui's in the format, everything like that. He's pretty much like a Jim Hawkins cheat out card or ink. Okay. But it works good because it does buff Jon Silver. It helps the deck out, and it's good, like I said, if you're going to have Jon Silver get something out, you might as well get this. It's 2 lore, and for some decks like that are really tiny, like aggro decks, they can't really deal with it. You know,
later in the game where you could drop aggro in another location.
Yep.
Also really good timing for that.
Yep.
Okay.
Another target for Jim Hawkins.
Okay.
My boy, Gustav. I love this card so much. I played it last set a lot. It's not as good in this deck as it was last set, but it's still good.
Was this mostly to counter the Flynn Sisu package, or you had other spicy stuff?
Yes. So it does that really well because a lot of them are going to put like an Argus out, which is 4, or they're going to have their own Sisu, or the Fox. They're going to bounce with the Fox who has 4 attack. Sure. So 4 attack is usually like the extent they're going to get on turn 3 or 4 until like Maui comes out and turn 4 or 5 depending. But he also in that situation is good too because he enters exerted obviously. Okay. So if I play him turn 3 and they almost don't want to go Maui on their turn 5 because they have no other cards, whatever. They rush out Maui. Maui's got Reckless, so he has to trade into Gustav. Okay. So that's like a really cheesy way of getting rid of a Maui because like that's a good trade in my opinion. I mean, they
protects your location.
It protects my location. It protects my Flynn, right? And they're just wasting a Maui, which will protect me end game.
He's pretty much the wall, but as a character.
Yeah, I wanted to run the wall. Yeah. The wall was in this deck, so he was in this deck. Sense. But the wall.
He is the wall. Gustav the wall.
He is the wall. One day maybe. One day for the wall.
That's awesome.
All right, 3 smash as removal.
Yep.
For if you're playing Amber Steel, it could remove Singer Aerial.
Feel that was like a good number, or you want to cut down to 2, or what do you think about that?
I think 3 is good here. Because I'm not running a ton of removal, and the 3 stat line gets rid of the Ursula, the Singer, like the double Sing Ursula. It gets rid of the Singer Aerial. It gets rid of Flynn Rider if they're running a Flynn Rider type of thing. But even the 3 damage is pretty good because if I quest with like a Robin Hood or a Flynn and they want to go Maui into it, this removes Maui too, which is good because he's got 5 health, and it's like a good 3 on smash. It doesn't get ripped from Ursula. Okay. It definitely is. It's good. And then AC himself.
Oh wow. Clutch card.
Put him up on the screen.
Or yeah, you got inspired by somebody.
Yeah, I did. A part of it, you in the challenge. I did play you in the challenge, and you were on some locations. You were on some RS Legacy of your own. So Goofy's so good because the rush is phenomenal. The 4 stat line, like we talked about earlier. He surprises your opponent. He can knock something out, generate you lore.
Were there any games where you closed him out with like just the 2 lore?
Oh, almost every game. Like
that surprise factor.
Yeah, he's so good because that 2 lore. Because normally, sometimes you'll gas out around 16 to 18 lore if your opponent's whatever. And now your opponent's kind of similar with Goat in purple, where your opponent now always has to think in the back of the mind. All right, am I questing? Because if he draws Goofy, he wins. Like this type of thing like that. And I think most of my games, if anything, I won against Red Blue was because they start getting to the point where they're removing everything. Right. And I have Goofy where I whole new world into Goofy, or I just top deck Goofy and I just swing it into a Tamatoa to win because I'm at 18. Yeah. So that 2 lore is so crucial because you gas out close to your top end there. Yeah. And that could just sneak you so many wins. And he's just good.
And he works so well in this version because when I ran Ruby Amethyst with Jim Hawkins and RLS, it forces people to turn cards sideways towards the location. Yep. they know you play Goofy, they don't want to do that, but they're forced to make that decision, take out the location, or if they don't, then Goofy's going to run into them. Like, it's just puts people on the clock.
Yeah, so many times they're like, do you have it? It's like, yeah, okay, next game, right?
Awesome.
I love Goofy. All right, Tiana. This is your steel MVP. Against green steel, against even amber steel, blue steel. This card is so good. But this is this is like the main reason I'm not running a ton of card draw here, because when she's exerted and you have no cards in hand, they can't play actions, so that's like songs and actions, which is phenomenal. The resist 2 is easily like the best amount of resist. I mean,
you didn't mind sitting across a Bucky player. It didn't really affect you. You're like, okay, discard my hand, I got Tiana.
Especially if it was like, if I had Whole New World in hand, I'm like, yes, please discard me so I could discard a Whole New World so this can become live.
Okay. Right.
And then once this is live, especially against those decks, nothing does damage to it. Right. Tinkerbell splash damage doesn't do it. Even Tinkerbell running into it only does 2 damage. So it takes 2 Tinkerbell swings to even take her out.
You need some hard removal.
Yeah, Grab Your Swords doesn't do it. Right. Along Came Zeus. The 4 stat line with the resist 2 is phenomenal. I don't try to get this out against like a red-blue player because they have infinite ways of dealing with it. They have Madame Medusa. They have Brawl. They have everything. They have everything. They have everything.
But definitely against the right matchup, it catches off guard, especially against the Bucky.
Yes. All right. We are on 3 RLS.
Okay.
On 3, not 4, because it is uninkable, and it is a really bad draw if you don't really have a combo with it. I mean, it's not a bad turn 4 if you're going the Jon Silver Smee route.
Okay.
It actually could be sneaky good, because then you could give them evasive next turn, both of them.
Right.
If you were at 5. So that's sneaky good. But the star of the show with RS Legacy is really this next card here. Okay. But RS Legacy is phenomenal. It gives all your characters evasive, 2 lore. The 8 stat line is really good because Maui plus Fishbone, or not Fishbone, Maui plus Fishhook does take it out, but it takes usually 2 Maui swings, or even like the Hercules, the red Hercules, the 7 attack that people are attacking in for the castle, doesn't quite take out RLS. So it's really good to get. I think one game I played against someone, I think I got 10 lore off RLS. Wow. Just playing RLS and then just removing his stuff, and RLS just carried me to victory.
Sure, yeah.
All right, Jim Hawkins.
MVP card?
MVP card.
Wow.
He's definitely up there because he's so good, especially if locations get better. He's going to cheat out better locations. Okay. But, you automatically get to cheat out RLS. You get to put him to RLS.
Ideal player right there.
Yeah, that makes it only cost 1 to go to RLS.
Sure.
And you could even put your Flynn Riders there to make them even more sticky, and then you could cheat out the extra lore by questing with them. Okay. And the 4 stat line's pretty good because, like I said, a lot of things are 3 attack too. Yeah. Where like the Robin Hoods and stuff.
It doesn't get Medusa either.
It doesn't get Medusa, and Tremaine is falling out of the format a little bit, so he doesn't really they have to have it doesn't get Sisu'd, it doesn't get Brawl. The 4 stat line without Medusa, like they draw Medusa, it's like, well, I can't use it, right? Right. So Jim Hopkins is awesome.
Solid.
Good old Robin Hood.
Okay.
I love this card also. I played this card the last couple sets.
Look at the pretty one over here.
Yes.
But yeah, 4 of them. Yeah.
Yes. Makes sense. Yeah, obviously this is another turn 3 play you have, right, where you shift your 1-cost Robin Hood into this. This card, it's just so good with the 3/6. It does think it's 3, where it does get Medusa. But usually it'll get you a quest or 2 by then, and it's really good against decks that are running, with the 3 health line. Right. You can shift it and then take something out, pretty much take no damage on him. I mean, even if he takes 2, he's still fine. And then you get the 2 lore. So it's almost like pseudo Goofy a little bit, where it'll cheat you out. Like it's cheated me out a lot of lore. And then if they do have to deal with it, it does get you the card draw, which can help. And that's,
Yeah, versatile card.
Yeah. And it's a May effect, so if I have Tiana, I don't need to draw the card. But,
okay, cool.
Yeah,
nice interaction to know.
You do want to draw usually, but... And then only 2 Whole New Worlds. Okay. So I think those are the only 2 songs I'm on. Okay. Because, like I said, you don't want to get them ripped.
When do you want to cast this, really?
So there's 2 times if you're playing against someone who is on like some sort of purple or even red, like red-blue sometimes, where they're just drawing a bunch of cards. You can sometimes sneak it out with doing turn 3 Robin Hood. Sure. Right? Like if they spent their first couple of turns drawing cards, you can, do Robin Hood, then shift Robin Hood and sing this right away and kind of go plus, 2 maybe on them. And then it's great at the top deck at the end of the game.
If you just need extra resources.
Yeah, that or like, because my hand's gassing out so fast.
Okay.
My opponent's always going to have usually 3 or 4 cards in hand, and I'll have 0 potentially.
Okay. Right.
So it's one of those things where it's like, okay, now I'm getting 7 new cards, and you're only getting +3. You know.
Pretty much, if you don't have the Tiana package set up, then you could fall back to a whole new world.
Yeah, this is only at 2 also because it's anti-synergistic, I would say, with Tiana. There's been times when I did have whole new world Tiana in hand, it feels bad, but it's the price you got to pay for some card draw at least.
Okay.
All right, That's the deck list.
Is that 60 cards?
It is 60 cards, though.
How many uninkables do you think you're in?
It is 9.
9? Okay, so you rarely had an issue inking and stuff.
Yeah, unless you drew like RS Legacies and Tianas.
Okay. Well, that is an awesome deck. I'm glad you were able to showcase your list on the channel. Did you plan on making any changes to the list after this weekend?
I do. So, as much as I love Gustav, I think I'm going to cut him down to 2. Because 3, he's ink, and there's only certain matchups that he's good in. So I think I'll cut Gustav down to 1. I'm going to cut Nottingham, I think, down 1 more.
Okay.
Because I don't think you need 3 of that. It's one of those things that's kind of situational. Because what I'm thinking of adding is a 4th Jim Hawkins. Because I didn't have him. I didn't have a 4th Jim Hawkins. That's why I'm not running 4. You should be running 4.
Okay.
But 4th Jim Hopkins, and then I think I'm going to cut another of the Pirate Man himself, Jon Silver, because I'm cutting that location down, and like I said, my 3-drop is kind of contested, very heavy contested, so I have a lot of 3-drops that I don't really need. So he was at 4. I'm going to cut him down to 3 because I'm going to add 2, I think, Tinkerbells, like the super rare Giant Fairy Tinkerbell, because, like I said, the aggro decks are starting to come up. And originally I thought this deck I wouldn't get past 5 ink because I thought I'd gas out. But more and more I see I'm getting to 5 to play the Jim Hopkins. And by that point it's like, well, I'd like to top deck, Tinkerbell because my removal, I don't play Grab Your Swords or Be Prepared or all those like mass board wipes.
Right.
So I've played against aggro decks where I can deal with them in the beginning because I'm playing a lot of characters that can attack that are kind of big in the early game. But end game, when they have like 5 ink, what they've been doing is like, hey, I'm going to go like 3 or 2 1-drops and 2 2-drops, and they're all questing for 3. And then it's like, well, I can't deal with board because I have no mass board removal, so I'm relying on baboons and smashes. So it would be better if I could have Tink against like those 1-health characters like the Lilos and the Maleficents, and that just wipe the board, and then it's a threat because they don't want to quest with those things because take it out and then deal 2 to something else.
Now the guys still deal with your locations, so then they have to attack and then be open to Tinkerbell. So that's awesome.
I'm top decking a lot in this deck, so I want to top deck a Tinkerbell over a Gustav is pretty much my logic there.
Yeah, okay. Cut some of the cards that are bad late game and add value towards late.
Yeah, because I can mulligan for the hand I need, and then late game, because I'm not drawing a ton, I'm like a victim to my top deck. So if I top deck some like 1 cost, it's like, oh no,
Nice.
So the Tinkerbell will be a good.
Playing this for the next couple weeks.
Oh yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, the season is ending pretty soon. Speaking of which, and the Shimmering Skies is right around the corner. Are there any cards in particular that you're excited to try out? Maybe either for this deck or just in general.
Robin Hood.
Oh boy.
So I think I'm gonna try something because I did play Green Steel with Robin Hoods. I played the bow because I was playing the Sheriff Nottingham ping damage. Yep. So
I'm gonna go back to that.
I think I'm gonna because I should be more proficient than a lot of players in that because I did play that for a while.
Okay.
And I loved that deck because one of my favorite cards is the Relentless Beast, the green one. It's a legendary.
Sure.
I think it was set 2. That card, whenever you deal damage, you can ready it. Yeah. And I had so much ping damage cards coming out.
Yeah.
I don't have to rely on the OTK. That card is so fun. Like if you get 2 of them out, even you could like quest, attack, then ready, then quest, attack, then ready. Then like it's so much fun. That card, you can do so much with it. And with the Robin Hood support, with the location being added.
Yeah, it might be the next Emerald Steel deck outside of Bucky. So he's going to be gone now.
Yeah, the only problem is I'm scared there'll be a lot of resist cards because Cogsworth will still be in the format, and that was a problem that deck faced was all the characters having resist. So that'll be interesting, but I'm definitely looking forward to that. And if any Trumpeteer Mickey support comes out, I need that, like a 10-drop that gives something ward and evasive or something where the Trumpeteer Mickey can survive another turn. I want to try something like that, but as of right now, we haven't seen anything that I've noticed that'll be good with the Trumpeteer Mickey.
Sweet. Well, before we end the video, are there any shout-outs you'd like to give?
Just AC. Fantastic videos, high quality all the time.
Thank you.
Perfect Circle, hosting us, you know, my home store.
Locals, yeah.
Yes, go to your locals, you know. Yeah, no one in particular, just, you know, now that Pixelborn's gone, I would have liked to shout out Pixelborn because that was like,
shout it out.
Yeah, still shout it out. Pixelborn was so phenomenal. I mean, what a like amazing single person project, pretty much. Right.
Awesome. Well, Joey, it's been fun. Congrats again on winning that Ursula promo and playmat. To everyone else, we will see you all in the next video. Peace out.
When you walk away, you don't hear me say, please, oh baby, don't go. Simple and clean is the way that you're making me feel tonight. It's hard